city of steel. For centuries, this was the identity of Seraing, a place that helped shape and invent the modern process of steel production. Legendary firms such as Cockerill were all born here in this vast industrial basin. One lesser known but equally important company was Esperence-Longdoz. It was a true David versus Goliath story. A smaller firm that managed to survive multiple crises and wars. In this long-form documentary, we take a deep dive into the extensive and remarkable history of the Esperence-Longdoz company by exploring the massive ruins that remain. These ruins are the legacy of the fallen empire that is slowly disappearing from the landscape. The terrain we are exploring first is a true industrial wasteland, spanning a staggering 33 hectares. In the past, the entire area was densely packed with numerous buildings and installations. Stuff was left behind here, including equipment and steel-packed minerals used in the production of steel. This in combination with the state of decay. Further on, we found ourselves in empty offices. These are the harsh remnants of a bygone era. The tale of this complex begins in the early 1800s, when the company of Espérance was established along the Meuse River by Frédéric Louis Baer. They specialized in coal mining and iron smelting, which became a growing industry due to the Industrial Revolution taking hold in Europe. Longdoz, based in the neighboring city of Liège, was a firm specialized in the rolling of iron. These two firms merged in 1862, forming the Esperence-Longdoz company. Next to the office and central workshop, another section still stands, the refractories building. This area serves as a sort of recycling and maintenance center, cleaning the equipment of slag to be recycled. Slag, a byproduct of steel production, can still be used in various other sectors. Despite its appearance of being old and long abandoned, this area was still in working order as recently as 2009. Reaching the top of the tower, we enjoyed a great view of the industrial landscape of Seraing. In the early 1800s, Seraing was nothing more than a collection of small factories. But by the end of the century, it had become a true industrial powerhouse. One of the main centers of heavy industry was the incredibly successful Cockerill company. In contrast, Esperence-Longdoz was much less successful at the time, focusing solely on the production of pig iron. Despite facing near failure at times, Esperence-Longdoz saw success in 1905. New technologies made the company quite profitable, but unfortunately this process was halted by the start of the First World War. As the Germans rapidly invaded Belgium, the entire factory was raided of machinery. On the opposite side, the power plant resides, and we'll be focusing on this more impressive and intact part. The power plant is one of the last true traces of steel production on the site. Until 2016, the terrain was a true industrial landscape, even including a large abandoned blast furnace. Via the side of the boiler house, we had to balance over some beams, evading the razor wire. Over some sketchy looking steel beams, we got closer to our goal. Now we were in the open air boiler house. Where blast furnace gas was once combusted to generate steam. We had to navigate through the maze of catwalks to reach the station itself. After descending a few levels, we made it to an open door. This is the old boiler house, painted in a bright blue, making it quite unique to witness. In these boilers, blast furnace gas, coming as a byproduct from the blast furnaces, was combusted to finally produce electricity. Although scrappers had gone through, making quite a mess, incredible industrial details were still abundant. The power station was likely built during the late 20s, making it truly unique. After World War I, the reconstruction began. In rapid pace, the blast furnaces were rebuilt. The machines were once again installed. Modernizations were also put in place, such as 4 new generation blast furnaces. A new coking plant was also built across the river. And with this development, Esperence-Longdoz seemed to have saved itself once again. These times of prosperity were halted by the Second World War when Germany invaded once again. With Germany's fast blitzkrieg invasion, the factory was spared from the destruction of war, causing it to be put in operation right when Belgium was completely annexed. The board of the company decided in secret something quite courageous at the time. They decided to increase the number of people working in the factories to prevent the deportation of minorities and intellectuals, hence saving many people who would otherwise be deported to Germany to work or to be persecuted. When the war came to an end, the factory was run down and outdated, but freedom had once again been reinstated. Besides the boiler house, an old school machine hall is also residing in this part. Let's head over to this part. This building is not just a power station, it's also a so-called blower house. Blowers look a lot like turbines for electricity. The only difference is that they produce hot air, used in the blast furnaces. Unfortunately, all doors were locked, so we had to improvise. Via a dark secondary boiler house, we made our way through a hole in the wall onto the gantry crane. Being over 10 meters high, we really had to be careful. Climbing on the ladder's cage, we could now make our way down into the machine hall. Some machines were already scrapped during this time, but in the past, multiple bright blue machines were housed here, containing blowers and turbines. Some still remained intact. The control room also still seemed relatively intact. After the war, the factory was estimated to be around 20 years behind its US counterparts. Something had to be done, and with the help of the Marshall Plan and some lucrative new laws, the reconstruction could begin. A brand new state-of-the-art rolling mill was opened right across the river, which quickly became highly successful, given that they had been specialized in this entire lifespan. A new blast furnace was also commissioned, quickly followed up by yet another one. In 1957, blast furnace number 6 of the company was opened. This was, at the time, the most modern one in Europe. The company reached a true peak, and this could also be seen in just the amount of densely packed buildings on the terrain. Problems arose due to its location between normal residential houses, roads and railways. We nearly covered all of the former factory. Across the rail, an unassuming part was located. This area was the old indoor substation of the power plant. Inside, a true surprise was awaiting us. This incredible control room was once responsible for the distribution of power to the area and the steel factory. It's a true monument of industry, left abandoned for decades. During the 60s, the steel industry was quickly changing. More investments and modernizations were needed to stay competitive. A massive project was announced by Esperence-Longdoz. Chertal, a peninsula located in the north of the Belgian city of Liège, was once the symbol of the future of steelmaking in Wallonia. The site is absolutely massive, covering 188 hectares. First, we'll head into the massive steelworks.
Hey.
That was a real close one. It shows that security is active, and we had to be really careful. Eventually we made our way to the torpedo card waiting area. In the past, the torpedo cards waited here to be rolled into the facility. After a short while, we made it inside. This is the steelworks, an LD steelworks to be exact. The dimensions of the steelworks were truly incredible, with heights sometimes exceeding 50 meters. The steelworks used the so-called Linz-Donowitz process, invented post-war to create better quality steel. Pig iron from the blast furnaces rolls into the factory via these torpedo cards. The pig iron is tapped into huge pots, which can be lifted by a crane. The massive pots are then transferred to the hall, where converters await the pig iron. Converters can be somewhat seen as massive ovens. Scrap steel is also loaded into the converters, creating a true mixture. Oxygen is blown into the converters, reaching temperatures up to 1700 degrees Celsius. After waiting 20 minutes, you have molten steel. Places like these are eye-openers into the size of the past steel industry. It also shows that nothing lasts forever, no matter how impressive or large something is. The Chertal project was an expansion project by Esperence-Longdoz, announced back in the 60s. Driven by the lack of space in their original location, in Seraing. In the early 1960s, Chertal was a desolate peninsula covered in nature and wildlife. Within 3 years, a state-of-the-art steelworks and rolling mill had to be built here. It was a true mega project at the time. Seen as the future away from the old, outdated factories in Seraing to a state-of-the-art complex. A staggering 3,000 construction workers were hired to construct the massive project. Beginning with the steelworks. The steelworks were installed with, at the time, the largest converters in the world. A bit further, an equally record-breaking rolling mill was built, also containing the largest plate rollers in the world at the time. The terrain was connected via rail to the blast furnaces through torpedo carts. The torpedo carts had to cross a distance of 22 kilometers through the city of Liège. But this was a temporary measure, as the construction of blast furnaces on the peninsula of Chertal was also planned in the future. In 1963, the steelworks and the rolling mill were opened by the King of Belgium. With iron ore from France being phased out due to quality concerns, the ore was brought overseas via the many canals reaching the port of Antwerp. Better quality coal was brought in from the coal basin of the Kampen in Belgium. The future of the Liège steel industry was thought to be secure and future-proof. Currently, we are on the roof of the steelworks. We're looking at a massive rolling mill. In contrast to the heavily stripped steelworks, the rolling mill was still completely intact and a true time capsule at the time of exploring. Through the extensive old tunnel system, we could make our way inside. These tunnels were once used for electricity cables, needed in the factory. After some time, we finally were inside. This is the old machine hall. The hall was visibly being worked on, possibly being emptied out already. Luckily, we were inside on a Sunday, so the chance of activity was relatively low. This hall contains electric motors used to power many machines. The blue units right here were German SAC units, which were powering the rolls behind the walls. The unit's housing is already removed, making the copper reels inside visible. These are probably all original, dating all the way back to the opening, back in the early 1960s. The hall wasn't just machines, even an old control room was left behind. This old school control room was a true time capsule, probably controlling the many electrical systems used to control the powerful electric motors. Behind the blue-colored control board, another older-looking unit was also located. In 1969, Esperence-Longdoz was merged with a large Liège-based company, Cockerill. Cockerill was a huge company in Belgium at the end of the 1960s, containing 27 blast furnaces and employing over 40,000 employees. When the 70s started, the positive outlook on the future was scattered by the 1974 energy crisis, causing steel prices to plummet. Liège and all the historically inland steel manufacturing centers in Europe were hit the hardest. In the span of 10 years, the older factories were closed down in Liège, one by one. In an attempt to stay afloat, Cockerill took over nearly all steel companies, eventually forming the Cockerill Sambre group. The relatively modern blast furnace number 5 on the Esperence-Longdoz terrain was closed down in 1984, including the older 4 furnaces from the 1920s. Still being one of the most modern additions to the valley, the Chertal site continued to be invested in and expanded over the years. At the end of this hall, a massive electric motor was located. The impressive motor was connected to an equally impressive machine hall. This is the roughing stand, where still hot slabs of steel were pushed into to flatten them. The machine was heavy duty, handling the rough work of flattening the steel slab. Places like these are really unique. In most instances, the machines get sold off immediately when closed down. It gave a real insight into the past. During the decline, the social situation worsened due to many layoffs. Urban decay set in, including crime and drug problems. In 2005, the industry was a true shell of its former self. Blast furnace number 6, once renowned for its modernity, was closed down. But the workers took a stance. The workers decided to handle the upkeep of the facility and even the security, in the chance that the furnace would be reactivated. In 2007, their efforts seemed worthwhile, as it was announced that the furnace from 1959 would be reopened. A trend of decline since the 1970s seemed to have been stopped. For the first time, a furnace was back in operation. Behind the roughing stand, the next part of the facility could be found. These multiple green-colored machines are called finishing stands. This row of impressive machines would finish the heavy plates into a sort of large plate. The machines were once again completely intact. The control room for this section was much more impressive. It also provided a stunning overview of the production line. All the machines seen here dated back to the 1960s, meaning they were all original units. After the large plates were stretched out to the preferred thickness and length, they were transported to the final stage. Despite nearing demolition, this area still seemed intact. In this pit, the plates were cooled down with water and rolled up by this machine. The steel plates are now coils, which are the finished product. Steel coils are used in everything, from construction to the automotive industry. Inside the control room overlooking the machines, remnants of those who operated in this section remain. It really shows what the worker probably called its second home when it was still operative. But this was 10 years ago. In 2008, due to the financial downturn, blast furnace number 6, which had been restarted earlier, was shut down again after a short 9 months of operation. A dream of reigniting the steel industry was gone, and the final phase began. In the 90s, Coqueril Sambre merged with many other steel manufacturers, finally creating ArcelorMittal, the largest steel producer in the world. ArcelorMittal led a wide portfolio of better and more efficient factories worldwide, leading to the decision to shut down all production in Liège by 2013. Massive revolts started in the streets of Seraing, demanding the government to save the lost factories, but it didn't help. In 2013 was the final year of Liège-produced steel. So, what caused the decline of Esperence-Longdoz, and also steelmaking in Wallonia in general? It is a complex answer with many factors, but the first one is simply its location, which was far inland and far away from overseas ports. When the company was founded, this location was ideal, with iron ore and coal deposits close by. But as time passed and these deposits were closed down, raw materials had to be imported from North and South America. This made production far more expensive. The second reason is the age of the factories. Many plants were already old and not fully integrated into a single site. Different parts were scattered around the city, which increased operation costs. With current economic trends and globalization, the decline of the industry became inevitable. And with this, the story of a small company, founded by creative entrepreneurs and operated by courageous steelworkers, comes to an end. Blast furnace number 6 was demolished in 2016. The Chertal site, as of the autumn of 2025, is almost completely gone. And so the last true traces of the legendary company of Esperence-Longdoz have vanished, leaving behind only stories and memories.